Hey all, Lawrence from Express Unity, and today we're going to be continuing work on our gun manager, and we're going to be learning how we can shoot across the network. So how we want to do this is we don't actually want to synchronize each bullet every frame, because that'll end up taking way too many photon views. There's actually a limit to how many photon views can be allowed in each room. I can't remember how many are actually allowed. I think it's close to around 1,000. So after 1,000, photon will actually break and will not synchronize any object after an ID of 1,000 or something along those lines. So instead, what we want to do when we start shooting is we want to synchronize a bullet, but we want to synchronize its initial velocity. After we do that, all the other clients can basically figure out where that bullet is heading. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go and create, firstly, our bullet prefab. So I'm just going to, for now, use a sphere. And just going to scale it a tad, because this is otherwise going to be a very large bullet. Maybe like that. I might actually scale it or position it with the player so that I can see how large the bullet actually is. Okay, so it's actually huge. So we want it to be a little bit smaller than that. And so we want to give it a tag. We already have a bullet tag here, and I'm going to name it bullet. We're also going to give it a rigid body. We don't actually want to give it a photon view. But that should be it for that. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to make the prefab in the resources folder. And inside the weapon, let's just see. Okay. So where our weapon is, we want to create a new game object. So create empty within the weapon, and I'm just going to call this shoot point. This shoot point is basically going to be positioned at the barrel of any weapon that you're trying to make, as this is going to be what where the bullet comes out of. So another thing we actually want to do is we've layered the weapon. Okay, so I guess it wasn't saved for all. So let's go ahead and apply that. And we also want to give the bullet a new layer. And so I'm just going to call it bullet. Ooh. Bullet. And we want to give the bullet that bullet layer. Now what we want to do within our project settings. So edit, project settings. This is the new Unity project settings window, so we can actually dock this. But for now, all we want to do is go to physics, and we want to stop the collision between the weapon and the bullet. That way, when we shoot, we don't get any weird bugs happening where the bullet ends up colliding with the weapon. So now that we have that, again, we just want to apply the changes to the bullet and apply the changes to the weapon. We've already done that. Awesome. So let's go ahead and open up our, where did we have it? Was it weapons? I believe it was, yeah. So, to make this a little bit more modular, sorry, let's, within the weapon, wait for it to compile. It is even compiling. Okay, there it is. It was just stuck. Okay, so with this shoot point, I'm actually going to give it a tag. Shoot point. And while we could make a public game object in the gun component to basically tell where the shoot point is, I basically want the script to automatically find it for us. So in our weapon, let's create a new private game object. Gonna call this shoot point. Yeah, we can capitalize it actually. We'll just call it shoot point. Then before we call weapon start, we basically want to say for each transform t in game object dot transform. Then we want to say if t dot tag is equal to bullet. Then we want to say shoot point is equal to t dot game object. So all this does is it'll scan through all the entities within the parent, and if the tag is equal to shoot point, it'll assign that game object. Super easy. Alrighty, so now what we can do is create a few things. We can actually go ahead and create private damage or private. Actually, we've got health, which is an integer, so we can say private int damage. Actually, what did I make health? Is it? Yeah, it's an int. Okay. So int damage, we can say, oh, we can give it a private string as well, actually. So private string, we'll just call it weapon name. We'll actually call this one weapon damage as well. I think for now that's all we'll add, and we'll add onto that later. So now what I want to do is create a new public weapon. And we want to create a string weapon name and an int weapon damage. And now we want to say this dot weapon name equals to weapon name. And we add this dot weapon name so that the script doesn't confuse our weapon name with the current weapon name. So this dot weapon name refers to the weapon name here rather than the one inside the weapon startup here. So then we want to say this dot weapon damage, and then we'll say set that equal to weapon damage. Right. So now in our oops, not that. We'll just say that. And in our gold fox script, what we can do, we've actually got an error now. There is no argument given to the that corresponds to the required format, weapon name, da 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 da. So what we need to do is create a new public gold fox, and we're basically going to inherit all the base classes. Sorry, not like that. I believe it's like this. No, it is like this, I think. And so the first one is just going to be our the weapon name or damage weapon name. So this is going to be gold fox. The next one is going to be our damage. We can set it to 20 damage, and that should do it. So whenever you create a new weapon class type, we need to basically have this at the top, and this will give the class its stats. So this particular weapon is going to be called Gold Fox, and it's going to have 20 damage. So when that is called, all these values are set, so that is all good. Now, what we want to do, just trying to think. So, the weapon itself, we have a photon view. So what we want is to make, let's give this a shot. If we say using photon and then using photon dot pun, we want to be inheriting mono behavior pun, and I think that should be all good. Now we can create a public void shoot. like so, and then we can call a RPC. I'm just going to call it RPC shoot. And like all RPCs, we need to give it the pun RPC at the top. And so this is going to create a new game object. And we are going to, let's see really quick, what did I name it? Was it just bullet? So in our resources folder, yeah, just bullet. So we're going to create a new game object, or instantiate rather, a game object with resources.load, and it's going to be bullet. We also need to make sure that it knows we are trying to get a game object. Like so, that should stop that error. Next, we want to give it a spawn, so this will be our shoot point.transform.position. We also want to give it the rotation of the current shoot point.transform.rotation. Next, we want to say, so we want to get a new rigid body, and we'll just call it BR for bullet rigid, and this will be equal to bullet.getComponent rigid body. And I believe the easiest thing for us to do would just be to add a relative force in the vector3.forward, and for now, just for testing, let's times it by 1000 times time.delta time. Oh, we also want to give it the force mode of impulse so that all the force is applied at one single point. So now all we need to do is call the RPC shoot. Sorry, we want to say photon view dot RPC, no, lowercase photon view dot RPC, and here we want to call the RPC shoot function, and we want to RPC.targetAll. Okay, so another thing we want to say, if photon view, actually that won't work because this weapon is never the local client, because it's actually the map. So what we're going to do for this shoot is basically call it when the player holds the weapon. So I believe it's the gun manager. Just going to check really quick that gun manager is on. Yes, it is. Okay, so we are actually going to create a new public game object, and we're going to call it current owned weapon. And when we call this claim weapon RPC, we want to say current owned weapon equals to the gun. And it's very important that we use the photon view.find rather than just getting like the object when we collide with it or anything like that, because we can't actually pass an entire game object through an RPC. We can only pass values like vectors and floats and stuff like that. And so we pass the int ID to get the weapon, and that is able to be synchronized across everyone, and because of that we can then just tell the current owned weapon to be set gun. Alrighty, so what we can do with that is in the update is mine, we can say if owned, no, what is it? Is it current owned? If current owned weapon is not equal to null, then we can basically say start our logic. So for now I'm just going to say if input.get mouse button down, and this should be left mouse, I believe, and if it's down, we want to say current owned weapon dot get component. This will be weapon, we then want to call shoot. So we call this function. This function in the weapons class is then calling the RPC, and then this is doing all our logic to shoot the weapon. So that, I believe, should be it. We might need to apply this. So just quickly apply the weapon again. And before we build, we are just going to test this out in Unity to make sure it at least shoots client side. Alright, so let's get in here. Press E on the weapon. Then, bottom view with the ID 3 has no method RPC shoot, marked with C. Interesting. I named it different. No. That should be correct. I don't think I need to make it public, but just in case, we'll try making it public. We'll give this another play. So I'm just going to click on the robot, get a gun manager. Current owned weapon is none. So now the owned weapon is set. Now we have a different error. Object reference not set to any instance of an object. Bullet. Alright, so now let's just go ahead and just make a public game object bullet. I don't think it might be the shoot point that's the problem. We'll see. Might actually move this. Move the start function above everything because it's the start, and so it goes basically starts before anything else. Okay, so we've done that. Just gonna comment this out. If we save this, already changed that to bullet. If we save that, you'll see that even though our gold fox script isn't the weapon class, because we're inheriting from it, we inherit the bullet field, so we just drag that bullet onto it. And we also want to apply everything. Alright, so we'll see if that's a problem. It could be that it can't find the shoot point. Alright. So we've got that. Alright, so pretty sure. Oh wait, hold on. I commented out the shoot point. That's not what I wanted to comment out. But that could very well be the issue if it was giving me the same error as before. So actually, I will comment it out, and I'm going to make the shoot point public as well. And we'll just set the shoot point like this as well, and then we'll come back to making it automatic a bit later on. So we don't want to apply anything. We just want to set the shoot point like this. Then we want to apply, and then we want to disable the object again. So that should hopefully work. Alright, there it is. So we now have shooting. We're not setting any bullet damage or anything like that, but I just now gonna build the client and we will see if that is synchronized. Come on, hurry up and build. Alrighty. So, if all went well, we should now see shooting synchronized. So we'll join for this player. Just make the side here. So, okay, there we go. Oh. So the bullet is being synchronized, it is being shot. For this player, however, the velocity of it seems to be very slow. Whereas, let's see, for this player here. Okay, basically the velocity is slow for the opposite person. But we'll end up coming to that problem in the next video. Had to keep this one a little bit short. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you need any help or assistance, we do have a Discord server. Feel free to join it and personally ask me or anyone else in the Discord for help. We'd be happy to help you. Heaps of friendly faces in there. And continuing to grow. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a subscribe. It helps me out a great deal. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.